Hey, it's Glassbox here and welcome to my second video on HTML. In this video we are going to talk about elements. We're going to talk about HTML elements in more detail, but more importantly we're going to go through the tags that we wrote for the previous tutorial in a little bit more detail. So the first thing to explain is tags. So what is a tag? A tag is all the code that, or rather all the text that goes in between these two characters. In other words, the greater than and less than arrow keys. So any code that goes in here is a tag. In other words, this is a tag. Every tag must have a closing tag in HTML for it to function correctly. So in other words, if this is the opening tag, the closing tag for this would look like this. So this is the same pair of tag where one is the opening tag and the second is the closing tag. Each tag can contain many things. So in this instance, a tag can contain another tag. It could also contain the same tag, it could contain a different tag. For instance, this would be a valid thing to do. We can do this. And we can do this. We basically built a hierarchy of tags. You could say that this is the parent tag of this tag. You could say these two are siblings and both of them share the same parent tag. So this is the definition of a HTML tag and the fact that a tag must have a closing tag. Similarly, if you want, a tag can also be self-closing. In other words, we can do this. This tag is effectively treated as both an opening and a closing tag. Or, to be more specific, this doesn't need a second pair identical to it. This feature of tag becomes useful when you use certain types of elements in HTML which do not need an opening and a closing tag. So now that we know what a tag is, let's go back to the tags that we actually wrote. So the first one we wrote was HTML. So what is the HTML tag? A web page in general must have this HTML tag. This HTML tag essentially defines all the HTML text that you write on your page. So anything you have on this page, in this case we still have the hello world from the previous tutorial. If I were to refresh that page, it would have nothing. But to use it as an example, anything that appears on your page, whether it's images, whether it's videos, links to other pages, other sites, video controls, anything, all of that must go in between your HTML tags. There are instances where you would have certain control of these objects that will appear on your page outside of this HTML page, but strictly speaking, anything that appears on the page must go in between your HTML tags. And that is the function of this HTML tag. It is simply telling this particular web page, in this case index.html, that anything inside this HTML tag must be rendered on a web page. When we talk about tags, to make things a little bit more easier to read, it is always a good idea to indent your tags correctly. So in this case, the next tag we need to talk about is the body tag. Now, to make it clear that this tag is inside this tag, it's always a good idea to indent it like that. By doing this, we can very easily read it, and we can see that this tag simply is a child tag of this tag. Or you can say the body tag belongs to the HTML tag. Whichever way you would like to phrase it, it means exactly the same thing. Now, what is the function of the body tag? The body tag basically contains, again, everything that appears effectively inside this white area of the page. In other words, it effectively starts here and in essence ends somewhere down there. Now that's just a way of me trying to explain what is contained inside the body tag. The next thing we need to look at was the h1 tag. Now, as described in the previous video, the h1 tag is a heading tag. It is a type of heading. It is basically a predefined tag in HTML which allows us to write things inside this tag which has a predefined set of text format and style and text size already defined within the scope of this tag. So if we wrote anything here, so in this case, hello world, then the information here, the size of this text, the format of this text, the styling of this text, including the color of this text, all of that is essentially derived from this. If I change this to something like, say, h2, and I need to make the change to the closing tag as well, and save it and refresh the page, this now takes on a slightly different type of font size. So as an example, if I did something like this, I could very easily create more tags inside my body tag. So if I did this, based on what we've discussed so far, what would you expect to happen? I'll give you a second to think about it. So if you judge that this should now print out two hello worlds, where the first one should be bigger than the second one, then you're correct. Why? Because we've already seen that h1 produces a larger size text compared to h2. So we've saved the file. Let's just refresh the page, and we can see that this is now referring to the h1 tag, and this is referring to the h2 tag. Or, to be more specific, instead of tags, these are elements. So this is referring to the h1 element tag, and this is referring to the h2 element tag. Now, let's move forward and talk about a few other types of tags. Now, when I said that the body tag refers to the body of the page, we have another tag called the head tag. The head tag has an array of different information we can supply to it. But one thing that the head tag has is called the title tag. The title tag allows us to give the page a name. So if you have a look here, this says file / C drive and so on. This is basically effectively giving us the path to this file. But instead of doing this, we can actually give this page a name. So if we named it something like my first web page and save that and refresh the page, we can see that it's actually renamed this page to be called my first web page. So you can almost say that the head tag belongs to the kind of outer edge of the page. In other words, the body tag, so if I just do that and do that, the head tag has responsibility of rendering objects or rendering text which is on the same web page but outside of the body, whereas the body is responsible for rendering things on a web page but not as part of, say, the heading of the web page. Similarly, you can also mix and match elements. For instance, I can do something like this. You can see that even though this is on the same line, this has now applied the value of h2 to the entire line. But then I've overwritten the world by providing a h1 element to just the world text. Just moving forward, let's have a look at a couple more elements before we finish off this video. Another element I wanted to look at was the paragraph tag, or the p tag. The p tag is usually used to provide a large amount of text, or just text in sentences. It's called a paragraph tag because the assumption is you would write paragraphs into it. So if I just write a really simple text, something simple like, please subscribe to this video series, as an example, this will now appear in a paragraph tag. So if I save this and refresh the page, this has now effectively appeared as a line of text but inside the paragraph tag. One more tag that I want to look at is the comment tag. Now what is this? This is basically a comment. Comments are helpful in that they can tell us information about a line of text we've written, or maybe something that we intend to go and change in the future, kind of like a to-do note, anything. It allows us to write comments into our script without it appearing on the main page that we're trying to create. So if we have a look, I've saved this. If I now refresh the page, after refreshing it even multiple times, that line of text is not appearing here. However, if we look at the page source, we can see that it is in that page. So comments are useful because they can tell us information on a more personal level to do something to the page. We can even go as far as writing comments, say, above the HTML tag to tell us the purpose of this page, what it's supposed to do, and various other things. Comments is a way of us expressing information on this page which we don't really want to be visible as part of the main web page. And that's it for this video, folks. Thanks for watching. Hi guys, it's Glassboxed here, and I really appreciate you guys watching my video. And if you've liked it, then give it a thumbs up. If you already haven't, hit the subscribe button below to stay up to date with my latest video releases covering all aspects of technical testing. Also, follow me on Twitter and Google, links in the description below. Until next time, ciao.